Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you guys are coming to expect this. This is the expectation. This is the standard. You already know when you hit the play button, whatever you may be going through, whatever the challenges, whatever the obstacles that are in your way, whatever it is you're going through right now, we are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone. Today, I have a entrepreneur, sales master. I mean, so many titles, so many things I can give her, but all around just great storyteller in terms of explaining how to get the most out of every single opportunity that you've been given. And all of us have been given some sort of opportunity. She has a podcast called People Over Profit, just to put it out there kind of in a succinct way. So all that being said, Justine Beauregard, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I'd love to kind of the best place to kind of start this because I was waiting before we started recording to actually mention this because there was something about your upbringing that really hit home with me that you said. You said your parents gave you the option of paying to go out of town somewhere or paying you or going out of town somewhere. And you ended up going out of town somewhere, found some handmade bracelets or something like that. And then you started selling those. And, I was like, I was listening to, I'm like, man, see, this is my kind of person, a person who figures out ways to create opportunities wherever they go. And, you were, blessed enough like myself who had a father, was it your mother or your father?
This was my father.
Yeah, your father who had really taught you in terms of, or just parents in general, who taught you, the importance of staying on your P's and Q's, the importance of business, and just kind of making you aware of those things. So kind of go in a little bit about your background, how you grew up, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I had a really interesting upbringing because my mom's mom, so my maternal grandmother,
That was,
was an
that
entrepreneur.
was yeah.
And she had real estate ventures, and she was one of the founding women in electronics and worked in these male-dominated fields. And my grandfather was retired and stayed home, and she had five kids and multiple businesses going. And I grew up watching her and thinking, why do I want to live a life where someone tells me what to do with my time and how they get to leverage my skills for their mission and their benefit? Like, why can't it be to elevate my life experience and to progress my mission? And I think a lot of people who get into entrepreneurship really start off with that purpose-led thinking. Like, what am I here for? What am I doing? What am I creating? What's bigger than the business that I'm working towards, right? And so it took me a while to figure out what that why was, that purpose, that sort of end point. And so
Mhm.
I did work in corporate for a while, trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And the story that you had mentioned was actually, I was graduating high school. My love language is quality time.
Mhm.
And my dad said to me, I will give you $1,000 towards your college tuition, which was all he was going to give me towards any further education, or I will take you on a trip somewhere. And I was like, well, I definitely want quality time, especially now that I'm getting into the phase of my life where time with parents and family is going to be more limited because I'm at school and working and doing all the things. So we went on that trip, and I had created a bunch of jewelry. I actually brought it with me on the plane. So I had a bunch of earrings that I had made. And I was like, everyone here is a tourist who loves to buy stuff, and they all have disposable income because they're staying at a resort. So why don't I turn his $1,000 that he would have given me and like just start making it myself? So I'll bring these with me and I'll sell them on the beach and like walk around and talk to people. And actually, the hotel staff was the first people who bought these earrings from me. The woman that checked us in paid $35, bought a pair of earrings. Our server one night at the restaurant was like, I love the earrings you're wearing. I'm like, I actually sell these. I have a couple in my bag. Do you like any? You want to buy them? And then she bought them too. And everywhere I went, I would always sell stuff. And it was one of those things that it just sort of came natural to me because I thought, I have a skill set, you have a need, these things go together. It's a no-brainer. Like, all I need to do is just show up and talk about it, and be the representation of the brand. So I wore the earrings so people would comment on them. And if no one commented on them, I would create the desire by commenting on something about their appearance to qualify them into my offer. So I'd be like, oh, I love your top. Do you ever wear earrings that kind of match your top? And then we would get into a conversation and it would just come naturally to me.
So when you look back on that though, because you finished high school and then you had that kind of that rare opportunity to sell and to mention the story that you just mentioned. But I'm thinking now about how salespeople are kind of looked at in a negative way, where when people say, "Oh, you're too salesy, you don't want to work in the sale," like how that kind of that concept is pushed on a lot of high school kids, and they leave thinking that I don't want to sell anything or anything like that. What would you say your high school experience was like? And as you look back on it now, what do you think can be done to teach younger kids that selling is not a bad thing, that selling is actually all about believing in yourself? It's all about actually, it's more the world, this country, entire society was built on salespeople, great salespeople that have confidence in what they're doing, love what they're doing, and they want to tell every single person about that. So what about that concept?
I love that question. So here's what I would say is no matter what, you're selling yourself. You're
No.
selling something,
Yeah.
right? So if you're a kid who's about to graduate from high school and you're thinking, I want to go into a career field or I want to go to college, you have to sell yourself on your college application, or you have to sell yourself in that career field for a job, or you're going to sell something that you make or create, like a service or a product. So no matter what, sales skills are people skills. You need to learn how to communicate effectively, how to listen to people with empathy, how to carry conversations that lead to an outcome that's based in a belief that you have, right? Like every person that I talk to about sales, the number one rule of selling in my book is you can never be outsold.
Hmm.
So when you get into a conversation, there's two people selling in every conversation. So if you're going for a job, they're selling themselves on other candidates or why you're not a good fit or all the things. You have to be the one who's like, oh no, I'm perfect for this job. Here's all the reasons why. So no matter what, these are skills that you need to learn. And I think the pushiness factor speaks to exactly what you said about belief, that if you don't believe in yourself, or if you don't believe in your offer, or if you don't believe in the service or the product that you're providing, you're going to have a really hard time selling and you're going to feel pushy because you're not going to get curious about what that person needs.
Hmm.
Like, I never feel pushy selling things. In the example of the earrings, if I walk up to somebody and I say, oh, I love your earrings, and then, oh, thanks. This is the only brand of earrings I ever wear. I love them so much and I'll never buy any other brand.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, so by the way, do you want to sell my earrings? That would be pushy.
Right, right.
I'm noticing what they're saying and I'm like, oh, they're not a good fit. And then I move on
Exactly.
versus the person who goes, I love your earrings. Where'd you get them? And I say, I actually sell them. And they're like, great. How can I get some? Right. So you have to know how those little nuances of conversation and how to move and qualify people into a sales conversation.
Exactly. And the one thing I've actually learned is that it has to be genuine. You have got to be
Yes.
genuine as possible. And I'll actually give you an example with this. This excess energy drink, it's something that's sold exclusively on Amway. And it would just so happen that I went to a creator fest and the contest, actually I have it sitting right here. The contest was who could make the most energetic video about the product. And
I
because
love it.
like that, I actually drink and I had experience with Amway and stuff like that. It just came natural that I was going to be one of the people. I'm like, look, I invented energetic videos. I invented. So I was like, you're damn right, I'm going to do it. And I bring all that up because you had mentioned working in corporate. You had mentioned kind of feeling stifled or kind of feeling in a situation where you weren't being able to really flap your wings and be who you are. Can you go in a little bit about what the trials and tribulations were during your time in corporate, and then what ultimately got to the point where you just like, look, fuck it, I got to get out of here. I got to do my own thing and get it done.
I wish I could say there was some catalyst moment that was just like, I'm going to be free of all this, of all the chains of corporate. Like, I'm not one of those people who broke up with corporate. I actually, my last job, I was working for a bunch of startups in my career. And my very last job, which was a quote unquote corporate job, was actually working as a director for an educational nonprofit. And I loved working there.
Okay,
So
I mean, the school I teach at currently, I teach at
I
a
love that. I
But if
love
it's
that.
we're a
So
startup school, I mean, we're geez, this see again, and folks, again, this is all impromptu stuff, folks. I keep everything organic on this show. This was not planned. This is exactly why I do this show, why I tell you all the time we are
yeah.
here to simply help you. Because if you don't connect, we're living proof example of everything she's talking about. I mean, we just had this conversation with the founder of the school about how we can work with other people that are educators and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, go ahead. By the way, that happens on the
So
show.
good.
When you really start preaching, I start to go. I had to cut you off just to make sure the listeners catch that.
I love it so much. So, yeah, I was working at this amazing school that's doing amazing things. And I was thinking to myself, I was at the time, I was actually pregnant with my first baby. And I thought my whole life I had wanted to be an entrepreneur later in life. My plan was to be semi-retired at 50, start a consulting practice, kind of move into it slowly. And then when I got pregnant and I was working at the school and I was looking around with all the parents and seeing all the parents with their kids and thinking, I want to raise my own kids. I don't want a stranger raising my kids. So it's either going to be me or my husband who's going to stay home. Like we had talked about it. And he said, well, I have no desire to stay home and try to build a business or supplement the income. And at the time, I was the breadwinner. So I'm like, well, if we do it, then I need to still bring in money. I can't just stay home. And also, I'm going to go nuts if I don't do something, for myself. And
Especially
so it can't be.
considering your upbringing, you have it and you already have, you've seen
Yes.
certain things work. And that's something, another thing as young people, especially parents listening as well. What experience and what things are you exposing your young people to? Because those habits come up, later on in life.
Yeah, for sure. So I was thinking about all my options and I said, what do I need to make? And we sat down and we created a budget. And I was like, I don't really need to make that much in a year. A couple grand a month is enough for us to be at the income level that we want to be at and have me staying home with him. So I ended up leaving. And it was one of those things where in my head, I thought, this is going to be easy. I'm great at sales. I've been doing a marketing or sales related job for years. At the time, it was almost 10 years.
Right.
And then I got into my own business, and I frankly had more problems with entrepreneurship than I had in corporate because in corporate, you're given your goals, you're given your measurements of success, you're given mentorship by your bosses, you have a team to support you. In my business, I had none of that. And I was learning how to sell me, which before it's very easy to sell other people's stuff, but selling myself, selling like my products and offers, it
Uh-huh.
created this very weird confidence issue in me that was like, well, it's my stuff. So now I'm extra protective of it and I'm extra vulnerable about it and all of these things. So I had to kind of relearn my skills with that different lens over it of, oh, I'm putting myself out there, which is why I'm saying to the younger generation who might be stuck on how to sell, getting over that sort of vulnerability, that deep inner questioning of like, is this what I really want? I really had to attach to my purpose to
Mm.
make the thing I was selling more than about me or the bottom line of it. It had to be about, I know a better way to help people market and sell their offers. I know a better way that can help them avoid all these pain points and problems that I had to deal with for years as a corporate marketer and salesperson. Like there's just something that's beyond me, my ego, my thoughts, all the things about me, and really takes it to that next level. And I often give this example to people, even though it feels extreme, because it helps people anchor into this concept. Imagine you have the cure for cancer and you're walking around and like a video game, there's a little pop-up above people's heads that says, I have cancer. And as you're walking around, you notice like half of the people that you're walking past have cancer and you have the cure for cancer.
Mm.
Are you seriously not going to walk up to those people and be like, I can save your life right now. This is a big deal. Like you deserve better. You deserve to live and be healthy. Like that is the key is You need to put yourself in spaces where whatever it is that you know how to do better, you can solve for people. It's clear how you identify who the people are who have the pop-up that says, I struggle with this thing, and then walking over to them and getting to the heart or the root of the thing that they are suffering from or struggling with, or where they might need support, and making them an offer, because it would be really unfair of you to hold on to the cure for cancer when half the people around you are suffering.
Yes, yes, it would. Well, it'd be selfish for you to do that. So that you have to understand that as well. And there's 2 points I want to make when it comes to a lot of what you just said. First of all, when it comes to the corporate execs that may be listening, it is so important that you establish something where your employees are getting the sales training, where they're developing the courage to go out and sell on their own. God forbid something happens to you. One of the videos I actually did today was talk I use a lot of football examples, but I was talking about how Alabama football, they lose their coach, but still they just they just won a big game against Georgia. They're number one
Yeah.
now, and the former Nick Saban coach is on the other side, and he retires, yet he's still kind of the guy, even though he retires. And you as a corporate exec, you have to be building that level of infrastructure in case something happens. And for you to, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because you had mentioned you had to kind of relearn how to sell after your 10 years in the corporate world. And that brings me to the next point is when it comes to finding that audience, like in your world, when it comes to finding all of those people that have cancer, how do you match? And I know you were kind of using a metaphor there, but how do you match what you can do for people to where the audience of people is you're going to find? Because that's what I've found as the challenge. Because nowadays, everyone on the internet's calling themselves an entrepreneur. You're calling yourself this. You could put a website. You don't have, I mean, there's so much bullshit out there in terms of what people are saying they can do that it becomes so crowded. And you really want to know who is my ideal audience? Are they and where are they? And I just want to serve them all day. So how do you recommend people go about doing that?
I love this question. I first want to do a short callback to what you said before about managers of teams,
Yes.
which is when you are teaching your team how to sell, whether it's you or a contractor or whatever, somebody is teaching your team how to sell. Don't just focus on your salespeople learning how to sell. The entire organization needs to learn how to sell what your organization is selling.
You can't see it, but there's some goosebumps actually popping, like actual goosebumps. I love it.
Yes,
I
it's
absolutely come on now. Take them to church. Take them to church,
It's
Justine.
so true, because here's the thing. We want to retain our top talent, right? We spend all this time training. The average time to onboard and train somebody fully is about 6 months.
Yeah.
So to spend and invest all of those resources, time, energy, money into these employees just to have them leave because they're not enrolled in the mission and they don't know how to sell the purpose of the company and they're not like part of the core team. If you want to have a strong team, you want to have great morale. You want to have people rallying towards like all the goals and objectives you have for the company. Everybody needs to be sold and everybody needs to be trained to sell. Some of the best salespeople in organizations are actually the customer service department, which is actually who I used to sell when I was a corporate sales trainer. And I used to travel around the country and train huge teams of customer service reps to be great at sales, because they were the ones who were rescuing the clients who were leaving. They were the ones who were fully on board with, this is what we need to do to sustain our paychecks, and this is what we need to do to show up and have fun at our jobs and enjoy the work. So much more than just training salespeople. The whole company needs to be trained. But back to your question about how do you find the people? Yeah. And I think I have a very strong belief about this. So most people don't agree with what I'm about to say, and I can't be outsold on it. So that's the great news. When you become great at sales, you can sell yourself on ideas and then nobody can outsell you. So my belief is that we don't get to choose who our customers are. We don't get to pick our niche. Our niche picks us.
Mm.
So you don't just say, I just want to support 25 to 35-year-old single moms who live in this area of the country and love watching, The Bachelorette on TV, like, and wear Lululemon yoga pants on a Tuesday afternoon. Like, that's just a random arbitrary avatar that we're taught for some reason in business school and by other people, we have to like pick this persona and then sell to that persona, which is why it gets really hard and it feels like a needle in a haystack when we're trying to find our ideal customer because we picked a needle in a haystack as our ideal avatar and we've narrowed so deeply because we're trying to speak to this one specific person when in truth, we need to speak to our value and our values. So when you speak to your value and your values, like going back to the example of the cancer patients, right? We're not saying, I am scanning this room and deciding who has cancer, who also is wearing this brand of clothing and has this, certain type of walk and, buys this certain type of shoe. I'm looking around the room and I'm saying, hey, I am here because I care about your health.
Mhm.
I want to support you without chemo. I want to support you in a natural way. I want to help you live well for a long period of time. All the people around you who are like, I've already resolved myself to be dead in 3 months. Like, there is no solution for me. I'm never going to find a cure and I'm not even going to look for one. They're opting out. They're ignoring my message. Anyone who says, I believe in Western medicine and I don't think there's any way outside of chemotherapy to cure my cancer, they're not going to buy into what I am selling. So they're going to opt out as well. Then it has to be the people in the room with cancer because that's what I'm talking about is a cure for cancer. So anyone without cancer is going to opt out. So now I've naturally narrowed my niche to only people with cancer who are open to living a healthy life and want to extend their life, and people who do not want to use chemotherapy as the mechanism to do that, as an example.
Yeah.
So when I talk about my core audience and people say, oh, it's just entrepreneurs, I'm like, well, first of all, it's entrepreneurs who love what they do and work full time. So that's already a subset of a niche. But
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, there's only so many of us, even though it seems because we are business owners, everyone around us is a business owner. And you said earlier, like there's so much noise and everyone thinks they're a business owner. The number of people who identify as a full-time entrepreneur is actually a really small subset of the population. I'm niched enough. I don't need to target myself to people who look like me or live near me or anything like that. So I think if we expand our view and really focus on the value and the values of the brand, they'll naturally find where we are because, like you said, social media is a free platform and there are billions of daily active users. Your people are there, and that's just one example of where to find them.
Yes, and this is such a hard lesson to learn because I, like I hire a coach. I hired a coach. Shout out to Dre Baldwin, and he's been known on the internet, all over the internet, for putting out his basketball content. And I hired him to coach me up. And one of the things that I remember him saying during one of our coaching sessions, he goes, "Look, I'd love to serve basketball players all day, just like myself. If you see, actually, I'll show you right here." Like a football. I'm a football guy.
Love
I
it.
would love every single day to serve a bunch of football players all day. But he kind of gave me the same lesson that you're giving myself in the audience is that football players mostly don't have much money, especially the young high school kids don't have any money at all, just like the basketball players. So if you want to serve and help them, it's more so the people around them, the conferences, the ones that are responsible for getting the game set up, the ones that are responsible for selling them the equipment, the folks with actual money, the parents, the boosters, all those type of people where you're going to have to get on the phone, you're going to have to speak to them and speak to their needs. And that's where you're able to niche down because you may want to serve, like you just said, you may want to serve single mothers that have this and are doing this and doing all those other things. However, though you don't get to pick them, right? They ultimately pick you based on what your skill set is and based on what your offer is. And that's why I'm so glad that you brought it up in terms of crafting an offer. And what steps do you take? And I sort of already mentioned this in terms of hiring a coach and professional development and stuff. So feel free to speak on that as well. But more so, what's important is how do we get to an offer? How do we get people to understand what their offer needs to be, how they need to make it, the high ticket, the low ticket, how you bring people into your world. Speak a little bit about how you were able to develop your proper offer, an offer that you felt like would be fair for you.
Yeah. So I think what's really important is that I have a concept called the objectionless offer. And I love talking about offers with this idea that you don't want anybody to object to it by default. Like when you get into a sales conversation, you want people to know what it is, what it costs, that they need it. So the only questions are really like, let's figure out the logistics of how this is going to work. But ultimately, I never get pushback on fulfillment timeframes or offer pricing or anything like that because I talk a lot about it in my pre-sales content, which is all the marketing stuff that you put out into the world. So when someone goes to my website, they know what to expect. They know what the price points are roughly. They have an idea of what I'm putting out there. But when you're thinking about your offer, there's kind of two tracks. There's the really easy explanation, and then there's the kind of nuanced one. So I'll start with the easy one. The best offer you can make is the one that you needed like 6 months ago or like earlier on in your life. So this is thinking about the people who come up with products where they go, I wish that there was a way, a lot of infomercial products, right? Like, I wish that there was a way to stop fries going down, my seat when I was eating McDonald's in the car. And
Yep.
then they come up with the drop stop and it's on Shark Tank and all the things. Like, that's a product created from a need. Like, I needed this. It didn't exist, so I created it. That's a great way to create an offer, right? And then the second way, which is a little more involved and nuanced, and I have like mini courses on this and all sorts of things, but the whole point of it is really, I think where people get most hung up about offers is what to include in the offer and how to price it. And so an offer, just to explain and all be on the same page about it, it's really just packaging of the product and solution, or like the product or the service that you're providing. So it's all the details of what that packaging is. So when you think about an offer, you want to think about, what do people need more than anything? So when I think about my offer, people need skills in sales. They need to understand the strategy behind sales, and they need to understand how to instantly apply the skills and the strategy to the thing that they're selling. The fastest, best way I know how to do that is by having them work with me, which is why I have a one-on-one offer, because I can help them sell their offer better than they can. I could sell anyone's offer better than they can in about 5 minutes after meeting them. So I can transfer that skill to them. I can help them overcome objections. I can help them understand what stands out about their offer. I can help them trim down their offer to only what's needed. I can help them price their offer and feel confident about it, change it if need be, in seconds, like minutes, seconds to minutes. So to me, it was like, okay, I could try to put something in a course because that's popular, but the quickest, easiest way I know how to do that is one-to-one. So that's going to be my offer.
Yeah.
So thinking about what's quick, what's easy, what's the most effective, you're asking questions with the customer in mind. And then when you're pricing it, you're really thinking about, as I price this offer, there's really only a couple of things, a couple boxes you need to tick. And it's not about the price point at all. It's really about the belief and the ability for you to not be outsold. So number one, you need to set a price that feels like a steal to the buyer. So who's going to go, oh, that's it, when they hear your price point? Like, or that's doable for what you're describing, or that feels like a really great value, right? If you walked into Whole Foods today and they were selling oranges for $17 a pound, you would be like, that's unreasonable. I'm not going to buy oranges. But they push the boundaries because they're like, we don't just have oranges here. We have the freshest, best sourced oranges. Every single one is custom stacked by a sales associate and checked every 2 hours to make sure that there's no bruising. They all look amazing. They're displayed. So they can charge higher for their oranges, but they're still priced at like $2 or $3 a pound. You're not spending this crazy amount of money. So know kind of what the market is, but then also you have to feel like for what you're giving, it feels like a steal to them. Second is that it needs to feel like a steal to you. So when you look at it, you need to be like, what the heck? People should be paying 10 times more for this. It's so good, because you know the offer. They haven't seen it yet. So on the surface, they have what they feel is a steal. Then you have what you feel is a steal. And the more you feel like your offer is a steal, and the more they feel like your offer is a steal, the easier the sale becomes. So my goal is always to have sales conversations with people, whether they're just practice, like I do a lot of demos with people, or getting on actual sales calls or coffee chats with people that turn into a sales call and pitching your offer and noticing what the response is.
Mhm.
What is the body language when you say the offer? How do you feel when you say the offer? How do they receive it? Are they like, whoa, that's amazing? Or are they like, oh, okay, I need to think about that?
Mhm.
Because as soon as you start having sales conversations, all those things become really obvious. Like for me, I tell people one of my favorite parts of a sales conversation is when we get to the end. This happens to me a lot because I'm great at sales, but we'll get to the end of a conversation and I'll go, so do you have any more questions before we move forward? And they'll go, no, I don't think so. And I'll go, well, would you like to know what the investment is? Like what it's going to cost? And they'll go, oh, I mean, you could tell me, but I'm sold. Like I don't need like whatever it is, I'm sure I could figure it out.
Yeah.
And it always gets to that point in the conversation where I'm like, of course they can afford this. And they're thinking, of course I'm going to make it work. That's where you want to get to with your offer. So I think those couple of tips will hopefully get people thinking about how can I create an offer that really is needed? And how can I put, this is another tip,
Yeah.
the least amount of stuff. This was a really hard lesson for me to learn because I had group programs for years and I put way too much stuff in them. And people would look at that and go, wow, that's so much stuff. And once they were in, they would go, wow, that's so much stuff I'm not using or taking advantage of. And my churn was a lot higher. So learning to pare down to like what is going to get, again, the quickest results,
Mhm.
the easiest thing to implement, the most fun for people. Like, really think, how am I going to get them to their ideal outcome as fast and as simple as possible? Least amount of sacrifice, least amount of effort. These are the things that we need to be thinking about so that we create the best experiences for people and so that the price becomes even more of a steal.
Yes, and that point too is about seeing your customers, your potential customers' reaction. That's a very important point as well. I remember I actually used to do sales at LA Fitness, and we had a training, and when people walk in, we're supposed to run them through a certain process. And I remember the manager was telling me, "Look, you always want to say this. We're going to take you on a tour, and then we're going to get you signed up today." And then he stopped. He goes, "Why do I say today? Because I want to see their what? I want to see their
Yeah.
reaction." I want to see how they react. Is this tour going to be a waste of time? Is this tour going to be something I can like? How exactly I'm going to structure the tour? And then you take them on the tour, and then you ultimately close them based on that initial. But you have to say when we sign you up today to see their reaction. And I bring all this up, Justine, because you had mentioned being one-on-one. Is that your best, like your kind of the best thing when it comes to how you know how to help people? How do you see this thing growing? Because one of the most difficult parts about being an entrepreneur is, God forbid something happens and you can't run the business. Are you setting up a situation where maybe your son could take it over, or if you have any more, how do you see the next phase of this business playing out?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm very curious to ask you, and we will come back to your question in a second. How did you respond or react if you said, we're going to get you signed up today, and their face was like a clear no?
Yeah, make the tour real quick. We're gonna do the tour real quick. You just run up there. Yeah, those are the treadmills. That's the weight room. All right, man, let's go back. These are the prices. See you. And then you get on with the people that are actually serious. Then there's a difference because there would be people that come in and they know specifically what workout they want. So my first sale ever was a lady who was she was wanted to do the spin bike. So we kind of skipped the weight room, skipped the cardio equipment, went right into the spin room, put her on the bike, and just kind of let her do her thing. And she was kind of immersed in this feeling of being in the spin bike. And I didn't really have to say much. I like check out the locker room, and then she signed up. Versus the person that said, nah, I ain't gonna do it today, dog. I'm just all right, let's keep it moving, brother. Now I had to learn that the hard way because I'm such a passionate person about fitness and sports and stuff like that. So the people who were like my mentors, and if you know LA Fitness, they have a lot of corporate stuff going on. He would
Yeah.
tell me all the time, look, I was one. You got to stop talking to the people that don't got it, man. I know you love your sports and you want to get into these sports debate and all that kind of stuff. Those people ain't got no real money, man. Go with the people that are actually going to be spending the money. So
Mm. This is interesting because I feel like there's another lesson just in that where somebody walks into a gym looking to talk to you about a membership, they are interested and they are qualified, right? Most gyms post their prices online, and most gyms are within the same kind of area of pricing, right? You're going to have some extremes, like the gym that I'm a part of is $130 a month. There's other gyms that are $10 a month. Okay, fine. But they chose to walk into your gym. So your assumption needs to be in your favor, right? Like everybody who walks into this gym wants to work out. They want a place to do that that feels comfortable to them. They want to be able to afford it. So how do we make it work is the question that goes on in your mind. So instead of thinking like, because I see a lot of salespeople doing this, and it's a huge pet peeve of mine of just saying like, well, this person's just a looky-loo or they have no money. And so let's just like make the tour quick and be like, all right, here's the price. I know you're not going to buy it, so get out. Like that's kind of the vibe. And that's how we're taught as salespeople by corporations, right? And I don't love that. I love when I notice somebody go, oh, today that feels rushed. Like I wasn't looking to make a decision today, or like, nah, that ain't me. I'm not going to sign up today. Like that's the vibe. You're going to ask, why not? What did you come in here for? Like you're here to sign up for a gym membership.
Yeah.
What's going to stop you from doing that today? And then when they say the pricing, okay, great. So if we can figure out the pricing, you're in? Cool. So let's go take a tour of the gym. And then you build excitement for the.
Yeah, but you're talking about before the tour. That's a good point. I just learned something. That's a great point. If I had to do it, I probably would do that because if
Yeah.
they say no, I don't know. Okay, well, what's the hang up for today? Okay, let's show. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I used to work at so after I have a lot of sales experience like you, but a lot of it primarily in fitness. But I worked at an Orange Theory Fitness as a sales
Mhm.
associate. And I brought up that idea when we were having a meeting because normally the process for them have them come take a free class and this was a lot like the gym you're a member of. It's like 130 something a month or whatever because it's group fitness. But the process was have them take a class and right after they're all sweaty and they just finished the workout. We're supposed to price present. Then I brought up the point of why not price present before so they know what it is, they work out, they mull it over, and then there's no surprises after they'll know. And again, me and these corporate folks always getting into it, but that concept of that concept of telling your price and not being ashamed of it, I'm not sure if you can get that without you really betting on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who really did well with these companies were folks that worked out. Like the girl who really did well, she worked out at Orange Theory as a member first, and then she became like the manager and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think what's important about how you just framed that, and maybe for people listening, just because there's so much nuance to these types of conversations, I just want it to be clear to everyone. I don't want you going down the rabbit hole on price, right? Like I don't want you centralizing your conversations on price. So I would be a little bit like, let's not speak directly to the price up front unless they say the price might be the reason. Like the only reason I wouldn't sign up is the price. Then you overcome that objection in the moment. But someone walks into the gym and you say, all right, it's going to be $130 to sign up. Let's get you in
Oh,
a class. They'd be like, oh, I don't know about that.
go ahead.
Right. So just like the framing of it and how it's worded is really important. And these are the nuances in the way that we sell and why scripting is important and why having a process is important. Because what you actually mentioned earlier with the person who loves spin bikes,
Yeah.
I would actually not start with a tour. I
Mhm.
would start, but that you're telling me what your ideal process is already. So I'm like, the first question, hey, what brought you in today?
Uh-huh.
Right? I'm looking for a gym membership. Okay, cool. What's your favorite thing to use in the gym? Oh, I love a spin bike. Do you have spin bikes? We sure do. What else do you like? Oh, I love, doing resistance training a couple days a week. Okay. So I'm going to show you the gym today. We're going to do a quick tour. And the first thing I'm going to show you is the spin bike area. And then I'm going to show you the resistance training. If you want to pause at any other stations, you let me know, but we'll kind of make those quick just because it doesn't sound like those are really what you're here for. And they're
Yeah.
like, wow, this person's really listening to me. Then
Yeah.
you take them on a tour and then you take them over to the spin bikes. And the critical piece that you mentioned, getting her on the bike. So she already feels like she's a member of the gym. This
Yeah.
is actually a key to sales that car dealerships developed, where they give you the keys and
Mhm.
they make you sit in a vehicle before you buy it. You can't actually, in any dealership in the United States, as far as I know, you cannot buy a car without test driving it at first.
Yeah.
You have to sit in the vehicle before you buy it. The
Yeah.
reason that they do that is actually a sales psychology piece because when you can sit in the vehicle with the key in your hand, you feel like you own it. It's the same reason why realtors have you go to an open house or do a tour of the home before you buy it. They want you to feel like you live there,
Yeah.
right? So it's really important that we give people these experiences. And if you have a service-based business online, how I do this with clients, because I don't have a physical location with spin bikes that people are going to jump on, right? In my business, I give them this through my sales process. So
Mhm.
when someone comes to me and they tell me what they do, I'm looking for opportunities to create awareness that there's a gap somewhere. So
Mhm.
when I say, okay, so what exactly is it that you do? And they're describing what they do, and I'm like, they're doing a really bad job describing what they do. It's not clear. They've got all these questions. I'm giving them like a quick, you know, I just had an idea for you. Take it or leave it, but a great headline for your website based on what you just told me would be bum bum bum. And they always go, that is a great headline. I'm going to use that. And
Yeah.
now they're sold on like, if that's what she's giving me in 3 seconds, I wonder what else she can do for my business to make it clearer, to make it more exciting, to make it easier to sell. So we're giving them that experience and that visualization of the potential very early on. To go
Exactly.
back to your question about scaling,
Mhm. And this
great
is part of
point.
it too. Yeah, that's a part of it. It definitely is part of it.
There, you have to think about what fits you. My brand, I'm not an agency builder. So everyone that I ever meet says like, just teach people your process and then scale with coaches under you. And
Mhm.
I'm like, that sounds like the worst job I've ever heard. Like, I don't want to manage people. I
Right, right.
don't want to teach my process to a team or have to manage them or, anything like that. So when I thought about how I was going to scale, I told you I had a group program for about 5 years. And hundreds of people went through that group program. And I learned so many great lessons. And then I decided to shut it down. And now I'm actually working on behind the scenes as we're talking. I'm working on another group program that incorporates all the best practices I learned from all of those, mistakes that I made in starting a group program with no knowledge and no experience doing that. So eventually I will have scalable offers, but for now, it's really interesting because I make more doing one-on-one coaching
Yeah.
in less time per week than I was making running my group program for
Yeah.
a couple $100 a month per member. So now that, we think about these things as what's the scalability, my one-on-one offer is actually a scaled offer. It's my version of I could make multiple, and I do make multiple six figures in this business just doing one-on-one right now.
Yeah.
And I will be able to get to the millions when I have a scalable group offer, but we are capped at certain levels. And so what got you here won't get you there. But scalable doesn't always mean going from six figures to seven figures. Scalable can mean going from six figures to multiple six figures and then going from multiple to millions and et cetera, et cetera. So we need to think, what does scalability look like for us? And for me in my business, what was most important for me was my time and getting a lot of my time back and really investing in the things that I wanted to invest in emotionally, mentally, energetically, all of those things. So in taking that group offer away, what I did was free up a lot of mental space and free up a lot of emotional space to be like, now I have sort of a clean slate to be able to visualize and dream about what my best scalable offer would be without jumping into something quickly or sacrificing more of my time to do it, or having the high churn kind of turnover issues that I was having in my membership at first, really learning and taking those and applying them. So for me, that's what it looks like is another group program inevitably. But for other people, I always get fearful that we listen to people who know what they do and do it really well. And we think, oh, well, then I should skip the agency model and I should create a group program or do something similar. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, listen to what your needs are and what your desires are, what's easy for you to facilitate. For some people listening, that is building out a team and training people or creating a certification model. For other people, it's building courses and having courses for sale on a website or going to Udemy and posting a bunch of courses for $20 and selling them. For other people, it is working as an expert and speaking on stages, and your scalable offer is literally just writing books and showing up and being paid to speak for $20,000 at a time. Not everybody's journey looks similar. And so we need to really think about, what are my best assets and characteristics as a person and what would I enjoy? And then creating offers based on what lights us up and what really is, it feels like it's not work to do it. And for me, that just happens to be a group, but for other people, it could look very different.
Yeah, you actually beat me to it because one of the things I want to make sure we're mentioning too is when you're talking about the selling your, I guess I can call it IP, your own intellectual property, and you're
Yep.
making it based on the system that you created, the next phase is not always going to be a one-way road. It's going to be very winding. It's going to be something that you have to really spend some time in the market, spend some time with clients, spend some time with people figuring out what that offer is going to be so it can be mutually beneficial. You have to be, you cannot be selfish when it comes to this thing. This is what I've seen most of the time. I've been a part of 6 different gym franchises that all have gone under. They've all gone out of business. And the primary reason for all of them was because the individual owner felt like they were going to make decisions that were just beneficial to them. And eventually those decisions caught up with them to the point where they had nobody underneath them and they had nobody to blame but themselves for this. And again, I've put on this show, I wrote these books, I do all the work I do so you can avoid that. You can avoid that trap as an owner. So all that being said, can you just tell people a little bit about how they can get in touch with you, and what's the like, where do you normally send people if they want to work with you?
Yes. And really quick, before I share that, I want to say too, you can get paid to learn. I got paid to learn,
Oh,
right? I
no.
got paid to have a group program. I got paid to do it wrong a million times, to fail, to learn through the experiences. Like, I really believe that the whole journey there, like, as you're testing it, charge for it. You're still providing value to them and to you. Like, why not get paid? And also, really important lesson, your customers, if you listen well enough and you know how to ask the right questions, which by the way is also a trainable and learnable skill, your customers will tell you exactly what they want from you. They'll tell you what they want to pay. They'll tell you what they want included. They'll tell you how often they want it. They'll tell you everything. And so when you get paid to learn and you get good at asking those deeper questions, you can build exceptional offers with minimal effort. Because all you have to do is teach yourself to listen and then go and find the people or work. Usually it involves other people bouncing ideas off and things like that. But you can go and create the exact things that people want at the prices they're happy to pay you, even if you're not 100% confident yet in your offers. So just don't forget that that is also a reality for you. So where people can find me, I have the People Over Profit podcast. It's available on all the platforms. And my website, JustineBeauregard.com, has all my contact information. And if you go to my Instagram, which is my main social platform, it's at Justine Beauregard Coach. That's where I share a lot of sales tips, best practices, strategies, skill building videos, things like that. So if you're looking to become better at sales, or you just want to, continue your learning and growth in sales and maybe learn some things that you've known for years from a different perspective or hear it a different way. Sometimes it lands differently and you want to just follow along for the journey. You're welcome to come and join me over on Instagram. I'd love to have you.
Yes, and all of that will be included in the show notes as well. So, Justine, the final thing I do to close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back to corporate work in Justine. You're dealing with traffic. You're dealing with a bunch of staff. You have just so many issues going on, a lifestyle in which you clearly don't want to be living. Pretend that Justine has come into the Zoom room. Give her some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
Okay. Going back to her, I would say keep doing exactly what you're doing. Take the lessons of the things that you're not doing well now and remember them and implement them, and take the examples of the things that other people around you are doing beautifully and follow them and learn deeper and master them so that you can become the best version of you. Some of the best advice that I ever got from one of actually my first corporate boss
Mhm.
was, you may feel a certain way about me as a leader, but I'm going to tell you that I want you to do something when I leave, because he was leaving the company. I want you to remember the 3 things that you did not like about my leadership and never repeat them. And then I want you to take the 3 things that you loved and do them your way. And I thought it was some of the best advice I'd ever gotten. And I do that with myself, with other people around me. And I always keep that advice in mind. So that's the advice I would give to myself.
It is. That's a shout out to that boss. That's amazing. Like that is amazing. I've done a lot of leadership development. I like you, a bookworm, and read a lot of stuff. That piece of advice is absolutely amazing because it almost debunks this myth that just because you're the boss, you know everything. And it
Yeah.
also, it gets away from the person who just complains about their boss all the time. So you kind of see that person as an equal. You learn from them and you move forward. So we need more bosses like that. We need more leaders like that.
We
We need
do.
people like that that are going to be very open and honest about, hey, there's a lot of things I do well. There's also some things I don't do well. Call me out on my shit. Call me out on everything. So we move forward with young people. So all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.